Hello, everyone. I'm Marlene Foster with Empower the Vision. And I wanted to tell you that all of my guests so far have just really been extraordinary. And today I have one that I'm really someone that I consider a friend. And this gentleman, of course, he's going to take kindness. He takes kindness, takes imagination by the hand, is how I describe him. And you will see why in a minute when he's talking with us. And when he's talking with us, also, you can ask him what his future plan is. Say, what's next? What's next? Kevin. And Kevin Giovannetto is here with us today, and he's going to talk to us about writing, the way he writes, his creativity, and how he keeps us sitting at the edge of our seats. And so I want to just tell you to sit back and just enjoy today as Kevin comes on board with us. Hello, Kevin. Just if you would tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Marlene. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Well, I've had many lives. Um, I've been many people in my life, and the funny thing about it is that I was an electrical estimator for 5 years, and then I was an energy management manager for 5 years. Then I was an independent consultant for 10 years. Part of that time I did energy studies, and part of that time I went by the name visual rhetoric, and I started creating marketing materials and the first websites in Peoria. So it was really exciting because I moved in all of these jobs I had. I kept moving towards creativity, and I always brought creativity into what I was doing. I mean, even with being an electrical estimator, my proposals were creative, and my energy management reports were creative. They had graphics. And I wrote them, so they were fun. But then I got a job at an internet startup called Cyberdesic, and then things just opened up like crazy because then I could be so creative in what we were doing, and we were working for Caterpillar and State Farm, so we're working with big companies, and we were working with their headquarters, and we were developing software for Caterpillar, internet software for Caterpillar, the first they had. So we were really in a great position. We were doing that with State Farm too. But at the same time, because I was so internet savvy, the chairman of the chair of the sociology department at Bradley University asked me to take over
Mhm.
his class. He was teaching sociology of cyberspace. So I took a little different bent on it, and I called it culture, identity, and
Mhm.
cyberspace. And I came up with 8 trends that I thought, I mean, future trends. Hello, David.
Hey, David.
um, so I had these 8 intuitions about
Mhm.
how the internet would affect our world and our culture. And they pretty much happened.
But you know what, Kevin? Okay, you got to tell us about this one thing that you told me about a year ago within our first interview about there was is it something dealing with Zig Ziglar, and there was a book. Was there a book that you were they wanted you to write some type of book of some type, and then you remember? Tell us what you did. You are so creative and just nobody knows exactly the next step you're going to take. Tell us what you did there. It
Okay,
was a
well,
great marketing ploy.
it was actually I had the idea to write to capture the story of Six Sigma, of Caterpillar's rollout of Six Sigma.
Mhm.
And I just thought this was important to capture it, capture all the ideas about it, put it in a book that everybody at Caterpillar could read so they'd understand what was happening, because this was a big, big shift. So I didn't know quite how to approach it. And a vice president of Caterpillar named Jim Beard set me up with an interview with Dave Burritt, who was the Six Sigma champion of Caterpillar. So I took a business book and I measured it, a hardback.
Mhm.
I measured it, and then I created a cover for it. Well, here, I'll show you the cover. Hang on. This is the book. Whoops. This is the book.
Yeah. Giant steps.
Giant Steps, Caterpillar's aggressive adoption of Six Sigma. On the back, there are quotes from that I made up. I made up all the quotes, including the one from Glenn Barton, who's the CEO of Caterpillar, and
But
all these different people. Anyway, I created a cover that was the size of the book, and I wrapped the cover. It had inside information on it too, on the sleeves. And I met with Dave Burritt and I said, I want your help to write this book. And
yeah,
he couldn't believe it.
I remember that.
He couldn't believe it. It was like I sold him, because as soon as he saw the book and saw that what it could be, to capture this story, he just got so excited. And then we talked for an hour and a half, and I introduced him to this MAST concept I have about meaning, action, structure, and truth. That's the MAST, and he loved that. But he told me like a month later that he and Jim Beard were enemies.
Oh, get out of here.
and that he fully intended to give me 5 minutes and then kick me out of his office. And we
Well,
became best friends.
yes, but I mean, look at this though. I mean, how, and I'd like to ask this, because I told Kevin that I would. How many of you out there could actually think of something creative as a Kevin has, and then go through with it, follow through with it, not really knowing how it's going to work out for you? I have done something similar to that before. And when you do take those type of chances, I mean, what if you never do it? And you say to yourself, well, I wish I had have tried it. It may have worked, and maybe it wouldn't work. But I'd like to ask you right now, how many of you have ever done what you just heard Kevin do? He walked in there and with a book cover around this book, and he sold this man on a book that he had planned to create for him. He was planning to create for him. So just respond to me. Let us know if you've ever done this before. What have you done? You did it. Yes, you did, or you didn't, or you're regretful. But just let us know if you've ever done what Kevin's done here. Kevin, I love that. That's bold. That's risk. And when you're writing, just like you and I were talking about, you as a writer, and everybody's different, of course, because I've been told, create an outline, do this and take care of that. And then you and I were talking, earlier and even last year, and I thought about that. I'm not a person who goes real well when I write from the outline. I like it's like a movie trailer. You see the trailer, and it tells you exactly, maybe somewhat what's going on, the action parts, but it doesn't tell you what's going to be happening in the story. And as you go along, you're not talking about Kevin, you start to express, or you come up with different plots, and you come up with the action and all that. It's almost like you're living a movie where you're writing it, and you can always go back and edit, right? Right, Kevin? So
Right.
I write very similar to you. So when I heard you say that, I said, Yes, somebody that discovered that there's some similarities there.
Well,
But go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, then what I did, I kind of invented this idea called voice authoring.
Hmm.
And what that meant was that I told the story with the voices of the people I interviewed. I interviewed like 150 people,
Hmm.
and I selected quotes, but I wrote the story with all of their voices, their words, not my words, their words. I connected them, and I talked about different things, but I really wrote the story of Caterpillar Six Sigma, how it rolled out in their own words. So when people read it, everybody they printed 100,000 copies and distributed them to all their employees, their dealers, customers. Um, I had made this deal with Dave Burritt to get $1 a book on top of what I was getting paid.
So what?
Whoa!
Oh,
That worked
okay.
out.
Okay. Did you see what David said? He said bold. He said so
I
bold
see.
and impressive, Kevin. You see this?
Thank
So
you,
bold.
Dave.
Yeah, because you know what? He's right. It is. But, very, very, bold. But look, you took a chance, Kevin, and look at where it took you by,
With
by taking
the
that
guy who
chance.
intended to kick me out of his office.
That's all he could do, right? That's all he could do. That's right. Is just show you the door. Exactly right.
He was saying, "Look, I'm this vice president is sending this guy to me. I'm not going to listen to him."
What? Okay, now I want to ask you though. I had, you and I talked previously, and you're gonna maybe share, and we could maybe do it throughout the our time here together. But can you start off with? I'd like you to introduce something. Is this something that you've written that we've never heard before, or something that you really got a good impact from? With you, poetry or something that you got
Well,
can share.
I've got a couple things.
Okay.
I've got a poem I could write or I could recite, and I've got a short story I wrote, basically for this youth group outreach that was
Oh,
non-denominational called the Cabin, and the story's called "The Boy in the Robert Redford Mask." Want me to read it?
yes. If you had told me, I would want a red mask.
Okay. Once upon a time, there was this kid. His name was Melvin. Now Melvin was an average sort of kid. His looks were especially average, very average looks. And this was a problem for Melvin. I mean, it's tough to make it these days with average looks. Melvin had it tough. Girls wouldn't even give him the time of day. He did have a watch, however. Well, one day, this Melvin character was really feeling down. He'd had a rough day at school, so when he got home, he did what he always did when he had a rough day at school. He got himself some munchies and sat down in front of the tube. He could usually shake the blues by getting into some old Gilligan's Island reruns. Anyway, there he sat in front of the tube when this strange commercial came on. Really strange. I mean, the kid had never seen such a strange commercial. The guy was advertising a Robert Redford mask. That's right, no joke. A Robert Redford mask. The guy was saying, yes, if you send $5.95 plus tax, cost, and handling, and the federal excise charges, which brings the total to a mere $49.53, you can have your very own Robert Redford mask. It's guaranteed. Just wear your mask for 1 year, and we guarantee that at the end of that year, your face will be transformed. you'll end up looking just like Robert Redford. Well, Melvin was really stunned. He had had no idea why it was the best thing he had ever heard of, and it just so happened that he had been saving his loose change and had exactly $49.53. There wasn't a moment to lose. He had to have it, so he sent for the thing. It took a while coming, though. Melvin checked for it every day, but it was slow going. Soon the days dragged into weeks and the weeks into months. He began wondering if the thing would ever show up. Maybe it was just some scam. I mean, it did seem too good to be true. Melvin started to worry. It had to come, it just had to. Then, just as Melvin was approaching the edge of despair, the mask came. That's right. Melvin got home from school one beautiful spring day, and there sat the box from the Pseudo Institute for Fairer Features. Well, needless to say, but I'll say it anyway, Melvin was thrilled. He tore the box open and picked up the new mask. It was one of those rubbery deals with 2 holes for the eyes and 2 little holes for the nostrils and a hole for the mouth. He inspected it carefully. It had to be perfect. It was guaranteed. So after he had gone over the thing thoroughly, he pulled it on and marched into the bathroom. It was uncanny. Why, he looked just like Robert Redford. I know it's hard to believe, impossible maybe, but the kid really did look a lot like Redford. So here he was, the boy in the Robert Redford mask. The kids at school thought he was some kind of a nut at first. I mean, who'd wear a dumb mask to school every day? But soon, school was out. Over the summer, Melvin kept it to himself. When school started up again in the fall, all the kids had forgotten that Melvin used to look like. In fact, they'd even forgotten that he was wearing a mask. Sure, sometimes after gym class, the guys would wonder why Melvin's hair looked the same after a shower as it did before a shower, but they just figured it dried quickly. Rubber does dry quickly, by the way. Even his parents were taken in by the thing. They couldn't explain the sudden improvement in their son's looks, but they sure weren't about to complain. The time flew for Melvin. He gained popularity. He made it into the inner circle of the hot groups. And by, he even attracted the attention of the best looking girl in school. Her name was Melva, and she looked a lot like Sybil Shepherd. In times past, Melvin would never have dreamed that Melva would be interested in him. But now here was his chance, 1 in a million. And all he had to do was take it. There was a problem, though. The mask. He was still wearing the mask. The year wasn't quite up. Melvin had to manage to fool everybody up till now. But now Melvin was in a jam. He knew that the first time he'd try to kiss Melva, she had discovered that he was wearing a mask. So he would simply have to wait until the year was up to make his move. Well, the year finished out quickly. In fact, it ended just before the big senior prom. Melvin had already asked Melva if she'd go, and she had been quite excited about the whole deal. Yes, everything was going great. Melvin had rented a tux and everything. All that was left was to wait until the time came to remove the mask. The time came. It was the day before the senior prom. It had been exactly a year since Melvin had first put on the mask. Melvin retreated to the quiet of his bedroom and positioned himself squarely in front of one of his many mirrors. He had bought in a bunch of mirrors in the last year. The kid was tense, confident, but tense. In just one moment, he would uncover a new face, a transformed face. He closed his eyes and pulled slowed at the rubber mask. It came kind of hard, but he continued to pull at the thing until it finally popped off. Then he opened his eyes. he was struck to the heart with horror. Before him in the mirror was a wild-eyed creature with several huge bald spots and a number of large open sores where chunks of skin had rotted away. You see, the ads were quite true. Melvin had been transformed, although deformed might have been a better word, and he did end up looking just like Robert Redford. For with his heart slowly sinking in despair, Melvin pulled the mask back on. He would never face himself again. Well, I guess that's the end of the story.
Wow.
What? Oh, you wanted to know about the prom with Melva.
Yes. Yes.
Melva did discover on the first kiss that Melvin was wearing a mask. But then Melvin discovered just why it was that Melva looked so much like Sybil Shepherd. That's it.
Well, man, you see, this young man, the mask, I used to say he wanted to look like Robert Redford. You see, if I was when you first told the story, I was wondering how old Robert Redford was at the time when he
Oh,
did this.
Robert
This
Redford,
is-
Robert Redford was popular at the time.
yeah, okay, so he was
Yeah,
young,
yeah,
young and vibrant. Okay.
yeah, like some of the movies had
Well,
just come out, so it was relevant at the time.
yeah, what the things that the kids, you're right, the kids will do, and you described something that I bet a lot of them would do. I saw somebody do something goofy like that in my class. They do things like that.
Well,
Oh,
I used it to talk about our tendency to wear masks. How all of us have this tendency to wear a mask
mhm.
sometimes, and so that resonated with kids. I mean, it really did.
Mhm.
They were high school, college kids, and they all knew about masks.
And Kevin, how many of us are still wearing masks?
I know it's easy to do.
Hmm. How many? I love the way your
I,
story.
I've worn them
Mhm.
myself at
Yeah,
times.
we all, because it's happened to us all of us.
I mean, like if I have to be a certain somebody to
Hmm.
with the CEO of Caterpillar or something like that, um, I want to wear a mask, but usually I just end up being myself.
Wow. But now, you see the story you just told us. What would you say? What makes your stories unique?
Well, there's always meaning behind them. Um, my stories aren't oops, they're not accidental. They have meaning behind them, and but I tell them in a way that where the meaning sneaks up on you. So I guess
Yeah. Oh, that's good. See, that's good.
the
It
meaning sneaks up on you.
sneaks up on you.
Yes.
Very good. And I don't know if you remember also that I have spoken with you about when you write, especially fiction, because I write creatively, and I wanted to ask you about when you write nonfiction, which you've done. You've done this. You've done both fiction and nonfiction writing. How do you take fictional type of terms and wording and even different strategies and add it to nonfiction? And you and I talked a little bit about that because it just makes the like I'm writing a book right now, and it's making it so much more like you even told me, some Marlene, take the characters and describe the characters more. And you said they'll bring more of a fictional tone and everything to it, but it's making it more fun for me to write by implementing a different personification in there, putting a simile in there, just the different aspects I can do that you use in fiction. And so I wanted to ask you, how did you do? You did this with Caterpillar. How did you do such a remarkable job with them? And you did it creatively.
Well, because by using their own voices and their own language,
Mhm, mhm.
it just brought the book to life. So people could read it. I mean, people knew these. I mean, I interviewed all of the top tier of Caterpillar. So everybody who was under a vice president or a group president, or reported even to the CEO, they got these. They got to see the they got to see their vice president and hear him in his own words.
Mhm.
So it really just resonated with people all over Caterpillar, because did the top tier, but I also interviewed uh, the Six Sigma black
Oh, I love Zig Ziglar.
green belts,
Yeah,
and I explained how Six Sigma was going to work at Caterpillar,
yeah.
and that black belts didn't report directly to anybody. They were going to be their own, work kind of independently. And I suggested that anybody who became a black belt
Hmm.
jump a few levels at Caterpillar.
Wow. And you
And
see what David just said to you.
yeah, I see that.
Hmm.
Yep, I agree. So people wanted to be black belts, and they did jump levels at Caterpillar. The people who became black belts leaped. Like some of them leaped like 5 levels at Caterpillar, which is hard to do. It usually takes a long time to rise at Caterpillar, because it's a big company, and you earn your stripes, but the black belts earned them a lot faster.
Wow, I definitely have a friend who worked for Caterpillar, and he said the same thing. He talked about he's been there for years, and I'm sure he's read some of your writing, and he probably knows who you are because he's been out there a long time. He's still with them. He's been there a very long time,
Yeah,
and he said the same exact thing. He said, Marlene, it's a struggle out here. He said it truly is.
but I mean, that really gave people opportunity that they didn't have before, and I mean, it changed the way that Caterpillar worked. It really made a big difference, and I
Well,
was I was part of it.
you see, that's great. But I wanted to ask you, and I was kind of start this off with most people who come on the platform, and that is prior to the pandemic. What's even just talk about your writing? Want to talk about writing or even your career? What was it like for you prior to the pandemic? If you were to just a brief description of it.
Mm. Well, when I'm writing fiction, I don't plan out the story. I let the characters take me to the story.
Like the,
So I don't have like some big master plan of what's going to happen in a story. I just develop characters, and then the characters tell me where they want to go.
I like that.
Because I get to know them. Like when I wrote the book about Michael LaSalle, the first book, where he meets H.G. Wells, and he learns how to travel in time, uh, and later on, it turns crazy, and Jack the Ripper's involved, and he's uh, he's a human being underneath, who's actually the best friend of H.G. Wells, but he's been infected by an alien virus that has taken him over. But see, I didn't have any of that plan. I had none of that. None of that. I never thought about it until I got, and I brought Sherlock Holmes into it, and Oscar Wilde and Dorian Gray, and I didn't know any of this. I didn't even know that the year I picked out to visit, the only reason I picked out this 1 year to visit uh, England was because of a story by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle about Sherlock Holmes that was set in that year. So I went to that year, and then later I found out that Oscar Wilde lived in England in that
Mhm,
same year.
mhm.
And then I found out that Jack the Ripper killed all those women in the same
Mm,
year. The
that's
same year that I just picked out of nowhere. Oops, lost you for a second.
okay. Okay. All right. We took a quick break. We back.
Or, yeah, I let the characters determine how the story unfolds. I didn't have any of it planned. I just learned as I did that with the second book too. I learned as I
Mhm.
wrote who was around, what people were around, and got them involved in the story.
Mm.
So it's very fun for me to write.
Okay, I'm listening to you because you know what you sound like you do when when you're writing. You sound as if you are going. You start off pretty much with your. You may even, I don't know if you do your like a trail of some type of an overview or something like that. But it sounds like you are. You know when you sit in the chair and you go into a movie, Kevin, and you're sitting there and you're pretty much the director because I do this. You do it. I sit and I watch a movie and I can tell you. My daughter said, "Why do you do that?" I'll tell you what's getting ready to happen. And I tell you the few scenes out, what's going to be. And I had people down for me just laugh, and they would end laughing. They say, "You are funny." I said, "Well, I enjoy doing this." And that's what you do when you're writing. You write the same way. It's like you don't have to keep looking over at the outline. The outline's controlling you and telling you what turn left up here, turn right. But you can actually decide what Kevin wants next. You decide. And if Kevin decides when he gets a few chapters up, he goes back and says, "Nah, that didn't happen right there. Let's go back and change it."
Yeah, I don't make an outline when I write a book. I just start writing it with an idea, one
Mhm.
idea, and then follow it.
Exactly. And I'm just looking at they said, I love that idea. It actually encourages the author to get started and get in the flow. And you're right, David, it actually does. It really does. As opposed to when I use an outline, guys, it restricts me. And my brain says, Marlene, that no, we don't operate that way. It's like my brain tells me, mm-mm, 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 mm-mm. So I take that. Next thing I know, I've lost the outline. It just conveniently comes up lost. And so once it's out of the way, I write just like you were saying. It's you can sit back, it's comfortable and easy and it's breezy, and you're writing
And
and
it's
you're
fun.
writing and it just comes to you.
It's fun.
It,
It's
it, it is. It is so much, and that's what makes writing so much fun. When you, it's almost like you're not feeling that somebody said, "Okay, all right, now going over to that side because this is a production, and you got to stay in line with with everybody else." But when you're on your own, you're right, Kevin. That's why your writing is so fulfilling and fun. It's a lot of fun reading when you write. And
thanks.
I can, and I'm sure that David probably feels the same way because I know he's excited about your writing. But it's fun because even when you never know, like you said this, Kevin, you said that when you read a story, or if you watching a movie and you reread it or you rewatch it or something, it's you're putting yourself into the story or into that movie. And so when I read your stories or your poem, things of that nature, that's what I do every time. I do it. I do that when I'm reading your writing. That's it. And I keep asking, why do I keep doing this? But it just comes. It's just me.
I was told by a English professor when I was in college. He said that he reads certain books like every 5 years or 10 years to find out who he is.
Mhm.
The same books that he read maybe when he was 20 years old or 18 or something. But if he reads them every 10 years, he sees completely different things. But it's not because the words in the book changed. It's because he's changed. So when he reads the book, he's reading himself. He's reading who he is now.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that happens to me. You know, I've read Moby
Um,
Dick. I've read Moby Dick because I did my master's thesis on Moby Dick. I've read Moby Dick many times. I always see things that I've learned.
mhm.
And so it has more meaning to me because it's telling my story. I mean, like, you know, like a song, you hear a song and it tells your story. I once, I think I mentioned this to you. I once reviewed Mila, the actress. She's also a songwriter, which most people don't know, but Mila had an album she put out, and I reviewed it on Amazon. Well, Mila saw my review, and I think she was just kidding around, but she said, "Well, I didn't write those songs about you because I was writing about what they meant to me." He said, "I didn't write those songs about you. I wrote those songs about different people. They weren't written for you." And so, uh, and so I mean, I apologized to her. I said, but they did mean something to me personally. Um,
Wow.
and she
Right.
said, well, you probably just want to get my attention because you think I'm so beautiful. And I responded, I think you're so smart, and your songs are really smart, and that's why I liked them.
Wow. She just didn't know what to do with you, did she? I mean, you were looking at her,
I
and she
think
was
she
looking
was,
at
I
you.
think she was kidding around.
Oh, well, listen. Well, it's just, David is saying by letting the characters take the wheel. It's similar to the way that God, author gives us characters
I
free
like
will.
Yes,
We are co-authoring our lives with God. You write your books the same way, Kevin. Yeah, Giovanna. That's a, see that's a thank you, David, because I was getting ready to ask you
no,
what you thought about what
it's a
Kevin just said.
spiritual, it's a spiritual experience because the thing that I do is I touch on all kinds of emotions and feelings, good and bad. Uh,
Mhm.
and my hope is to redeem my characters, that slowly redeem even the roughest characters
Mhm.
um, as I write. So, Michael Assal, um, H.G. Wells, all the characters, I might bring out their brash side or cruel side or uh, things that, things they've done in their life. But I hope to redeem the characters as I write.
Kevin, you just said it. I love writing, and as you will see in my book, I'm doing it in my own book. I love comparing, and I love contrasting. I love that. I love it when authors do that because what it just if you shift gears instead of just being on the same track, going down the road, just going down the road. But when you are having readers to look at something from a contrast point of view or comparing two different things. What do they have in common with each other? It really does keep their attention, keeps my attention. I love it. Cause and effect. I love it when I see authors write like that.
I think I learned it from a writer. Uh, that's what Dostoevsky does.
Hmm. But
And
it's more action packed, though, Kevin. It truly is. There's more action there. And when I read a book and they're doing it, because that's how I write, I enjoy that because you get to see. You know what's nice about it too is when you are comparing and if you're contrasting something, then it causes what the reader to do what add to it. You got a Venn diagram there, Kevin, and you have your little information, something on the left side, something on the right, something in the center, and then there's the reader there. Then he's going to draw his little circle in there too, and he's thinking, okay, but why didn't you do this over here? And they're doing it in their own world, and they got your ideas, and then that is their own, and it's almost like you're pushing them to broaden their scope. You're pushing them to do that.
I hope to. It,
Oh, oh,
it,
oh, you are.
it broadens mine when I write. I always I always learn more about uh, who I am and who I can be when I
That's
write.
see, that's great.
Who I, wa- who I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Michael LaSalle is who I want to be. I want to be Michael LaSalle. I'm writing a story about the man I want to be, that I hope to be. You know,
Uh-huh.
because I'm on a journey here in life, and I want it to be a good journey.
Mm-hmm.
So Michael LaSalle gives me a chance to create my better self and aspire to being that better self.
That's all right. That's right. Well, let me ask you this: after the pandemic hit, uh, what would you say? What type of transformation actually did you go through at that period of time of your life after it hits?
Well, the right before the pandemic, I had lived 5 years of my life basically disabled, mentally and physically. I was got to the point where I was searching for words. I couldn't have a sentence without searching for words. I mean, I was really dull. My brain was dull, and I was falling down every day because I had really low blood pressure. Um, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease um, because my hands shaked, shaked uncontrollably. Controllably, I had to retire when I was 62 because I couldn't work. I'm a writer. My hands were shaking like crazy. I couldn't do anything. But right before the pandemic, I got better. And it turned out that the medications I was taking, I woke up one morning, I had this idea in my head that said, research your medications. And so I did. And I discovered that my medications, all the side effects of my medications were killing me.
Hmm.
I didn't have I didn't have anything that I was diagnosed with. Didn't need to take any of this medication. So I stopped taking it. I came back to myself. And one of the first things I did was go back to LinkedIn because Facebook, uh, I would write things and people would just start attacking them
Mm-hmm.
immediately, no matter what they were, because I had a different perspective.
That's right.
And on LinkedIn, I found out that I could be myself.
Mhm.
I could talk about things without being attacked. And I found kind people on LinkedIn, empathetic people um, that I've grown to love, including you. And that just gave me a life. I mean, I'd had 5 years of just being a recluse. I didn't hardly leave the house, you know. So um, LinkedIn just gave me a new home,
A
new
new
friends.
home.
Yeah, new friends.
You
I
see
am. I,
what David just said to you?
I am too, David. I got my life back too.
I absolutely what you said about Facebook. I know you're right about Facebook. I saw people just shredded and torn apart on Facebook. It was ridiculous. It just sad. And when I just and I had an account with LinkedIn, and when I started to give them more time, I thought it was a better fit for me. It was
It's
more of a yeah, more of a fit. It was like you said, a family environment. And then I met David Hanson and and many others, and then finally I met you, Kevin. But it was better suited for me than Facebook was.
Me
Just
too.
better.
Me too. And it gave me encouragement, uh, outlet for my creativity
Mhm.
that was appreciated. I mean, I'm not exact. I don't. I mean, I was a businessman for like 40 years. You know, uh, but I was always a creative.
Mhm.
Underneath all of that, I was always a creative. So when I came to LinkedIn, instead of trying to be a business guy, I just started talking about things that are important to business people or anybody, but creatively.
So that the positivity during the pandemic for you was your connection with LinkedIn. So you had positivity, and there was a pro and a con. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, it really revived me. And now I'm thinking about uh, teaching again.
Okay.
I'm signing up to sub at high schools and colleges, or not sub at colleges, but maybe teach writing
Hmm.
classes or something at local colleges. Because I've also been encouraged by my friends on LinkedIn to get involved with my community,
Very
and
good idea.
now
But
that's what I'm thinking about. How do I do that?
excellent idea, and that's like the brief discussion that you and I had, and that is I think you had maybe we spoken just briefly about a nonprofit, and with nonprofits, okay, what I'm doing right now is I help for-profit and nonprofit businesses to get funding. Okay, so the nonprofit they were talking to me, Marlene, share our group how we can get it. I can show them how to get funding, for the nonprofit, and also I could show someone who's in business like myself who wants to endorse or to support a nonprofit. I can actually get funding granted to me, so I can take volunteers and go over and help them with building, or just if the money could go towards something that's needed for that nonprofit.
Well,
So there's a way.
I
I,
do
I
have
I can help with that.
I do have a concept that I would like to try, that could be a nonprofit, and that would be to create a creative writing institute in Peoria,
Wow, that's great. I love that. I love that.
where people could
Very good.
come and learn how to write creative.
Um, uh-huh. Very good. Okay, so now will they have to live there to come, or will you have it virtual? Will it be a virtual attendance as well?
Well, I would hope to have like a place, some place in Peoria where
Hmm.
people could come, and they could share their writing and learn things about writing. Maybe we could write stories together, like get people to start learning how to work together on a book or an idea or a story.
See, that's good. I love that.
So
Very good.
I would love to do something like that.
Mhm.
So if you can help,
Really.
that would be great.
And I can, like I said, absolutely. Look, David sent another message to you. David, he said, I reluctantly got active on LinkedIn because I had to look for work, but has turned out to be such a blessing in several ways. I'm meeting people in my worldwide soul tribe.
That
Uh,
that
it,
is
it,
so that's so good, David. I mean,
it,
I've got the ship of souls, and David is actually the one who got me thinking about creating a tag list.
oh,
Because he had a
oh,
tag, he has the soul
he
tribe.
sure has. Because you're right, his tag list is the reason I created my tag list. Okay, there you go, David. Now you know why I have a tag list
Oh,
because
yeah,
I saw yours and I said I'm going to do the same.
yeah,
I'll do the same thing. And so you're right. So I did. And then David came on and talked to me about his experiences, and what had occurred, within the company back during the Great Resignation. He was one of the first people that I talked with who had encountered that type of, and it was he, and then Michelle followed. Michelle came in and spoke to me about what she was dealing with. So I got firsthand experience
yeah.
of the struggles and the what they were going through in these companies and why they left.
Jan Deep also, my friend Jan Deep, he also uh, encouraged me to create a tag list, and he invited me to be part of his. So, thank you, David and Jan Deep. You were the
Yes.
two who invited me to be on your tag list, and so
It
and
was asking me, he's asking about, yeah, all about the grants for authors. I have run across a few. I have run across a few, David, and I can go back and and pull those out. But yes, because I'm always looking at grants, and ways, especially funding for nonprofit. But yes, I have run across. So both of you have. Look
yeah.
at this. She said both of you have huge tag lists. Yeah, well, I did. I got.
Whoops, she'll be back.
Okay, we
And
got a
just
little brief moment there, but we're back. Okay, everybody's got to take a break sometime. Okay, David. But yeah, it was you. I got started because of watching you. Actually, did. And so, like I said, and just looking at all of the while, all of us have been reading. Kevin's writing, and Kevin has really inspired me. Kevin, when I'm writing, because I love writing fiction too. When I write fiction, especially, you come to mind. I think about you and the boldness that you take, and like you said, the unexpected challenges that pop up. I love that. I love to see that, and so it's starting to, in my own little series of writing, it's coming up in mine as well.
oh,
So I enjoy
that's
what you do.
that's
Yeah,
awesome.
thank you.
I'm
Uh,
actually
and
gonna start writing a new book on LinkedIn. I need to have time to finish the books that I've already written. I mean, or to put them up on Amazon or something like that.
Mhm.
But I haven't done that yet.
Oh, well,
Because
we're looking forward to
I'm
it.
a compulsive creative. I just keep creating.
Yes.
So I'm going to start writing another book. Um, this one's called. This one, I think, it doesn't have Michael LaSalle as such, but it will have a character who is another form of me, a better form of me.
Mhm.
I always write a character that is beyond where I am right now, so I have something to aspire to.
That's very good. Something to aspire to. I like that. Very, it's very good. And the great thing about series, and David, I don't know if I think I said this to you once. A great thing about series is that you don't have your title is safe, right? If you write a series, and I think you're thinking about writing five, correct? 5 books. What is that, a pentagon or something like that? Is that what it's called? I'm just. what is
I,
it called? But
well,
I keep,
I might pare that down to a trilogy.
but yeah, but they, yeah, David.
Science fiction writer who inspired me the most was Isaac Asimov. He wrote the Foundation trilogy, and
I'll let you.
the first thing that really meant some science fiction, and it really meant something to me.
Right. But you know what David said, out of respect, I only tag people who have given permission, people who asked to be tagged, climb on board the Inspiration Express, on my posts.
That's right. Yes, I asked. Yes, I did.
Okay. Hey, David, and Kevin, respectfully, because I spotlight my guests. So they're actually, I need them to stay in connection with me while I'm doing posts and that kind of thing. So once I tell them, I said, well, this is what I'll be doing, and then I put them down so that they'll be able to, to see everything. They kindly just they're okay. They consent to this. So, like I think I took somebody off one. They said, "Wait a minute, oh, what are you doing?" I said, "You know what? You're absolutely right. It's like a default. When you come through the door, David, as a spotlight guest, you now belong on my list. Okay, that's how I view it. You come through the door, and here we go. You're on the list now. Absolutely. And so now with the okay, you're going to be doing you said the nonprofit now, and I'm really looking forward to working with you on that. And like I said, and anybody else who's out there, if you are, I'd like to hear from you, whether it's on the replay or if you hear with David right now. Send me a text. I said, Marlene, I want to know more about getting funding for a nonprofit, if you're a nonprofit, or if you are a for-profit business and you are endorsing a nonprofit, I can still help you. So let me know. And I believe you can get up to 6,000 per year. So I've seen people who are partnered in a business, and each one of them could receive it. So they ended up with 12,000 in 1 year. So come, like I said, reach out to me. Let's talk about it. And again, and do with David.
Grant writing is interesting too.
Well, thank you, David. I appreciate that. Thank you so very much. And it's like Kevin said, what he was saying to me when he and I spoke the early part of the week, and that is that we've learned from one another. He said, "You've taught me, Marlene, and I've taught you." And see, that's how it is with you too, David. We feel that way about you. You've taught us, and we've taught you, and that's how it is here on LinkedIn. We're teaching one another, and that's the beauty of being here, teaching one another.
That's right. Yes, it's great. It's been a wonderful experience for me, and
See
it
the
came along at just the right time, just when I
yes.
came out of my coma, basically.
But we're glad that you did. We're glad because I'm telling you, your writing, your expertise is just it's unlike. I don't meet many authors who write like you. I mean, you are truly unique. You're a unique writer. And see, that's why you mentioned, Jan Deep loves you. I do, David. That's what, I just see many names, that I see when I pull up and I see just a diverse group of people. I told you the other day that I saw Muhammad's name, just variety of people who reach out to you, and we all support you. We all, endorse you
Well,
wholeheartedly.
what I tell people is that I look for people who believe in kindness, compassion, and empathy, and accept each other regardless of religion or politics. Because I don't want to argue religion, I don't want to argue politics. I want people to get to know each other as people,
That's right.
regardless
Exactly.
regardless of what their background is.
Mhm.
You know?
Wonderful. I was getting ready to ask you if you won't just give me, we're at the end of the spotlight right now, but I wanted you just to give us just an overview of what, of a recap, what you'd like to leave, with our viewers today.
Okay. Well, LinkedIn, I think, is right now the best platform for connecting people uh, and getting them to think about how important it is, not
Mhm.
just for me as a person, but for all of us to start thinking about a different way the world can work, to start thinking about a world where kindness and empathy and compassion are normal and
Yes.
and that we treat each other that way and we start recognizing each other. I mean, we start recognizing each other as fellow human beings and hopefully
Mhm.
more than that, as brothers and sisters.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And I wanted to say again, thank you so much, Kevin, for stepping out of your creativity for a minute and joining us here today. We really appreciate it. And thank you, David Hanson, and everybody else who reached out, to Kevin and I today. We thank you for being, for actually joining us, for being here today. So, and like I said, if you do come on the replay, please put questions out that you need that I can actually, have Kevin to answer. If it's something that I need to answer for you, let us know, okay? We're here because, like he said,
Yep.
kindness, empathy, compassion. And I agree with Kevin wholeheartedly.
And I
And
like what
thank
David
you,
just said too. We need a global paradigm shift.
a global. Very good. And thank you again, David. Thank you so much. And everybody, listen, enjoy your weekend
You
and
too.
thank you so much.
All right. Love you.